Story 1. Autopsy photos of a bride in India, I believe. She was murdered right after the wedding by her family because they did not approve of her marriage. Her limbs still had henna on them, even after dismemberment. I still think about her sometimes. Story 2. The earliest event that affected me deeply was a video of a father performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation on his son, who had fallen from their apartment balcony. The video then showed police camera footage of the father lying in bed with a suicide note and pills. I will never forget that image. I believe he was an American in the Philippines practicing mixed martial arts. Story 3. I avoided many of the disturbing videos, but the sound of people burning to death in a tunnel stayed with me. It happened fairly recently, earlier this year, I believe. A semi-truck caught fire and caused a pileup or something in the tunnel. One driver managed to get out. Story 4. Live feeds from various security cameras around the world. Many people sit in their homes while strangers on the internet watch them. Story 5. There used to be a subreddit many years ago that I looked up because I thought, that can't actually be a thing. And it very much was. It was r/cute ephemeral corpses, which is exactly what the title says. Pictures of deceased women that people found attractive. The gore part did not bother me. I have worked in healthcare and have seen deceased individuals in real life. However, the fact that these were corpses considered attractive is what was creepy. Story 6. I saw a video of a young child, about 11 or 12 years old, hanging from a tree with a rope tied around her neck. The most devastating part of the video was not the hanging itself, but the way she cried right before she did it. She apologized repeatedly to her parents, her voice breaking into sobs between each word. Then silence. I saw that video over 10 years ago, and I will never forget it. Story 7. I watched Ken Bigley get his head cut off by the Islamic State. That was deeply unpleasant. I had imagined an Islamic beheading to involve a man with a sharp sword chopping a head off. It was not like that. It was a 5-minute struggle to detach the head from the body, while the body was being detached from the soul, all the while knowing that he had a family back in England waiting for his release from captivity. Story 8. A man follows a tutorial on how to perform self-castration, using rubber bands to prevent excessive bleeding. Story 9. I searched my full name online and found a man with the exact same name who was running a personal website. This was before blogs became popular. I checked in periodically because he was an early 40s gay man living with human immunodeficiency virus. He would post full-body pictures while sharing his journey with human immunodeficiency virus. Eventually, he stopped updating the site. It was tragic. I never reached out, but I probably should have. Story 10. I watched the entire compilation of videos made by Ricardo Lopez Bjorkstalker, including the one where he shot himself. Haunting. Story 11. I randomly came across a video on Reddit of a child in a Discord call, maybe 12 to 16 years old, with a KSG shotgun. He smiles and waves at the camera, then shoots himself. His mother enters the room and starts screaming. Strangely, today I have been feeling a lot of anxiety thinking about him specifically. It is strange how I came across this post. Rest in peace. I wish you did not pull that trigger. Story 12. I saw a man cut the skin off his ribs. I also witnessed some very disturbing events, but that was the worst I have ever seen. Story 13. Ripper is a gangster. Some guy, Ripper, way back in the early internet, decided to live stream himself taking a large amount of drugs. There was a bot in the chat that kept saying, Ripper is a gangster. He took more and more drugs, all kinds of substances. People were cheering him on until it became clear he was not okay. People tried desperately to find a way to call emergency services but did not know where to send them. The whole time he was dying, the bot kept repeating, Ripper is a gangster. He died on camera, foaming at the mouth. Story 14. A live feed of a couple entering their driveway through a security camera in that grayish closed-circuit television black and white format. And I doubt they knew. Story 15. In emergency medical technician class, we watched videos of the station nightclub fire. You can hear and see so much until everything is silent. The silence was the loudest and most unsettling part of that video. Story 16. Raw footage of the mosque shooting in New Zealand. I did not know what I was clicking on, and it took me a moment to realize what I was seeing. Story 17. Video of a mass grave in Syria where people were lined up, shot in the head, and thrown into the pit. Hundreds of bodies inside. Story 18. Video of a nightclub fire. As the video starts, everyone is having a good time, just regular people out for some fun. The band starts playing in the sweaty, packed basement. Pyrotechnics go off, and before anyone can comprehend what is happening, the whole stage is ablaze. People are slow to react. The band even tries to keep playing. Smoke fills the room. People start to realize something is not right, and they panic, but there is only one narrow exit. Cut to outside the nightclub. The only exit is blocked by a wall of bodies, moaning and wailing like zombies, mortal terror on their faces. Everyone tries to pile out at once but gets stuck in the doorway. The desperate, frantic pushing from those dying behind them only wedges them in more. You see the red-hot glow behind them as they are slowly cooked alive. The cameraman walks around the nightclub and finds another exit, but the door is jammed shut. You hear wailing and scratching on the door from the other side, which gradually stops. Years since I have seen it, but the images are burned into my brain. Story 19. I was really disturbed by footage of a special weapons and tactics team raiding a hotel. There was a man who had nothing to do with the situation walking down the corridor they were passing. They kept asking him to get on the ground in a certain way. The man was trying hard to comply, but he was nervous, crying, and saying sorry. The officer's instructions were confusing, and he kept yelling at him, saying he would shoot if he did not comply. The man did what he was asked, yet the officer shot him anyway and then continued to the room they were there to raid. It was very upsetting, and I still think about it sometimes. Story 20. Child pornography on Tumblr. I reported that to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children immediately. I doubt anything came of it, but one can hope. Story 21. I would say it is that 20-year-old boy burning in his hospital bed after his tent hospital was hit by a bomb. The slow movement, then stopping, the onlookers getting as close as they could, then retreating knowing they could not do anything. That is one memory that sticks with me. I got on the internet in 1995 or thereabouts and saw a lot of bad things, so I try to avoid seeing horrible things these days unless it seems worthwhile. Story 22. Live video of a man cutting his head. The man used a machete, and it cut into his neck. Took about 3 attempts, but his head did not fall off and remained attached to the flesh. Story 23. There was a cartel video I remember stumbling upon when Narcomundo operated a website. It featured Los Zetas or a similar group. They did not kill this man. Instead, they hung him upside down by his feet with a rope and beat him with a bat and their fists. He was kept in a dimly lit shed, swollen and discolored to the point that he resembled a vaguely humanoid figure from Star Wars. He no longer looked human, and I doubt the poor soul survived. Story 24. Everyone has brought up the negative aspects and so on, but more recently, what stayed with me for a while, few things affect me like that thanks to early internet days, was the knife fight between the Ukrainian and Russian soldiers. It was almost like a first-person camera on the one who loses, and everything that follows gave me a hollow feeling for the rest of the day. Story 25. Recently, there was a Minions artificial intelligence filter applied over child sexual abuse material videos and snuff films. It makes me hate humans. Story 26. El Blog del Narco is a blog that shows everyday violence in Mexico related to the drug cartels. The killings and body manipulations I saw competed with the goriest movies I have ever seen. The only difference is there were no props involved, so everything you saw was real life. I was on that website so much it pretty much desensitized me. During those times, I was interrogated by cartel members on a visit to a town in Zihuatanejo in Guerrero, Mexico. One night, we stopped by a gas station around 1 a.m., and the next morning, I found out a cartel banner with a decapitated head was dropped off at that gas station about 15 to 20 minutes after we left the area. Scary times. Story 27. I cannot remember how I found it, but I vaguely recall a website I discovered as a teenager that allowed you to see live feeds inside people's homes without their knowledge. Story 28. There was a man who just sat there staring at me, drinking and muttering to himself. Then I realized the monitor was unplugged. Story 29. A woman and a horse in an inappropriate situation. The horse finished inside her. I gagged but could not look away. Story 30. It's long gone. Rotten.com featured crime scene photos, murders, car crashes, and dismembered bodies. Oh, I miss the old internet. Story 31. Video from somewhere in Africa with a large pit dug in the middle of the village. 4 or 5 criminals in the pit are being beaten with heavy wooden clubs until their legs and ankles are broken, while the villagers and their children collect sticks and shrubbery. The sticks and shrubbery are all placed into the pit on top of the criminals. Then it is set alight while they try to crawl out of the pit without the use of legs or limbs. This was probably 20 years ago when I stumbled across this horrifying clip, and it shocked me. The early internet was wild. Story 32. Not exactly creepy, but I found it incredibly sad and foul that a teenage girl in the late 2000s and early 2010s felt the need to film herself sucking her used tampon and post it for attention. Story 33. When I was a lot younger, around 16 or 17, I was browsing unfiltered Reddit or early 4chan. It was a similar timeline to Steak and Cheese or Gore.com. I accidentally encountered child pornography or saw that Russian soldier getting his neck cut with a knife. That experience stays with you. It was not good at all, especially unintentionally seeing child pornography, which really leaves you with a sick feeling. It was then that I learned that people can be very cruel. Story 34. Back in the day, I came across a video of a woman somewhere in Asia who was being followed by a pack of wild dogs. They eventually became bold enough to ignore her swats and yells and knocked her down. They took turns lunging at her and started biting her. You could see her getting more and more tired, and she eventually passed out. Fortunately, the video ended before the worst happened. Story 35. My freshman year of college, I had an English professor who referenced a video of a man named Roland Budweiser. I said I hadn't seen it. All he said was, "Look it up." That professor was not a great person. I looked it up and clicked the video he mentioned, not knowing what to expect since it had a generic title like Roland Budweiser Last Press Conference. In case you do not know who Roland Budweiser is, he was a politician convicted of bribery who responded by committing suicide by shooting himself in the head on live television during a press conference. It is a disturbing video. Do not watch it. Story 36. A brick went through a car and hit the driver's wife in the face. I will never stop hearing her scream. Every time I remember this video, I feel sick. Story 37. Those videos where guys would ring somebody's doorbell or get their attention in the street while they were masturbating and ejaculate on them the second they responded. That was insane. Story 38. I have a solid answer for this post. It was a vacuum bed video on LiveLeak. It was only up for about 10 to 15 minutes before it was deleted. I remember a woman thrashing in a vacuum bed, obviously suffocating to death, while a man sitting beside her gently whispered, "Just 60 more seconds, baby. Just hold on." Eventually, she stopped thrashing and went completely limp. He was still talking to her and kept her in there for maybe 2 more minutes. I am pretty sure it was some sort of snuff or murder tape because LiveLeak removed it very quickly. It still haunts me when I think about it. Story 39. Parachute failing to open during a base jump. Good survived, but that primal scream of agony will always remain with me. Story 40. A long time ago, I stumbled upon something that was probably the front page of an inappropriate website. It was a picture of a young boy in swim trunks about to go fishing in the river. The awful part was the music. If you can imagine the kind of music that would play in the backdrop of Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn or some wholesome kids movie, it was like that, but made inappropriate. It was so disgusting and it stays with me. Story 41. There was a website dedicated to a man's chronicles of how he assaulted women and got away with it, including guides for people to follow and boastful stories. I can't remember the name of the website, but it was truly disturbing. It was much worse than Reddit's Ask a Rapist thread. Story 42. There is a music album on YouTube that describes the individual stages of dementia. It basically sounds like a record player playing songs from the 1920s that becomes increasingly broken until it is just static noise. It is called Everywhere at the End of Time by The Caretaker. Story 43. Back during the days of LimeWire, when searching for an image or a song you wanted, you didn't always get what the title of the file said it was, and there was no preview. Sometimes you would just highlight the first 20 files related to your search and start downloading them. I stopped doing that in the later days of LimeWire. I assumed that since the dark web had not fully taken off yet, illegal content traders would use LimeWire to share their files, occasionally including words in the title matching something I was looking for. I was shocked to the core when going through the downloaded files and seeing more than one picture of something I never want to see again. For weeks after that, I was terrified that it would lead the law to my door. From that day, I found the Pirate Bay and used it 99% of the time instead. Story 44. Subreddit posts, which I know are generated by artificial intelligence, show that we live in a digital world where it is impossible to differentiate real people from automated programs. Story 45. LiveLeak had a video of two Scandinavian girls camping in the mountains of Morocco. A group of men entered their tent and slowly stabbed one girl repeatedly with a rusty knife or screwdriver while the other watched before her turn. This was live on one of the girl's social media accounts on her own phone with her family watching. The sound alone was a nightmare, and the rusty knife took forever to cut. I wish I had not clicked that link. Story 46. Pick any of the Instagram female, attractive influencers' posts. Then look at the comments. They are all creepy and cringeworthy. Story 47. There was a site on Reddit where naked women would curl up in gutted carcasses like a deer kill. The women would be covered in blood. Strange sight. Could still be up and running. The site catered to the fascination with blood and dead animals. Reddit was unusual back then. Story 48. Three young men attacked a man on his bicycle on a back road surrounded by woods. They dragged him into the woods and slowly killed him with a ball-peen hammer and a screwdriver. The noises that man made still haunt me. Story 49. The infamous video of the father hanging himself in front of his two small children, who were trying to get him down while his body jerked as the noose tightened, stayed with me for years. It ultimately led me to stop watching disturbing videos of any kind. Story 50. I looked through the comments for a bit, and I must be confused because I have seen more than half of people's answers. I do not look at stuff like that anymore, but when I was a teenager, the internet was a different place and curiosity got the best of me, I guess. Story 51. Had a lot of creepy experiences on the internet, but since you are specifically asking about surfing the web, back in the day before Google, you would often just type random words with .com after to see if a website existed. Many websites were not indexed in the search engines of the time. Somebody had to manually add those to a directory or a crawler had to find them linked on another site. Being a fan of Illuminati-type conspiracies, one day I tried worlddomination.com. To my surprise, it worked. It is still there and has been for decades. It just hosts a password-protected project Slack with no indication of how to get the password. The website's interface has been updated consistently over the years, so it is actively maintained. I still have no idea what the purpose of the website is. Not super creepy, just kind of mysterious, I guess. Story 52. When I was very young, I witnessed the aftermath of a suicide by dipping his head into sulfuric acid. There was no skin, only bright teeth and eyes. Anything degloved frightens me. Story 53. One time, I accidentally came across a video of a kitten being burned to death. Thankfully, I only saw the thumbnail, but I felt sick to my stomach and cried for a long time. People who torture animals should be put in jail. What finally helped me feel better was remembering all the kittens who are in loving human homes or cat groups, and how most of them in the world are happy, well cared for, and safe. Most of us would never hurt them on purpose. Story 54. Watch two men fighting with tools. One man swung a pickaxe straight through the other man's stomach and out the other side. Story 55. A video of myself. A young man took a video of me in my high school history class and posted it on Tumblr. He was someone I never talked to, but it was really strange when the video appeared on my page 2 years later. Story 56. I was watching adult content as a very young person and came across a video that appeared to show a group of men assaulting a young woman. The low quality of the video and chaotic footage made me believe it was real. I was very young and did not know what to do. Another time, also as a young person on an adult website, I suddenly encountered a spam redirect with a live feed of a woman, and my webcam light came on. It scared me at the time, but I find it funny now because I believe it was probably fake. These days, I only browse moderated sites with ad blocking software. Story 57. I was browsing the dark web and saw a message board where someone was selling cheese pizza. They said to tell them what kind you want and send Bitcoin to a specific address. I was very confused about why people were ordering pizza over several months and paying with Bitcoin. It eventually became clear when I saw someone asked for child exploitation material with no pepperoni, 1 to 4 slices. This was what was happening. I disliked humanity that day. I reported the link, but such sites tend to disappear quickly. Story 58. I have been reading the comments and I have seen all of these. I think I need to take some time off from the internet for a while. Story 59. Anything you see, no matter how disturbing, is simply a part of the multifaceted nature of human behavior and nature itself. If you feel creepiness or shock when seeing such things, it is usually because you are experiencing cognitive dissonance with what you currently accept as within the realm of normal human behavior. However, if you study enough history, you realize that there is very little new under the sun when it comes to how people act, and people have been depraved toward each other since the beginning. Seeing such things and realizing that people are capable of such actions can help some of us understand others better and why we have certain social rules and mores that we often blindly accept without considering why they exist. With this more complete understanding of how humans can act, you avoid an overly optimistic outlook that can cause more harm than good. It makes me think of a similar idea about warfare. Those who have experienced it deeply often have a greater drive to avoid or prevent it. Conversely, those who have no knowledge of it may seek it. In relation to that idea, knowing the limits of human behavior makes me more appreciative and seeking of the good things in life while being cautious of what is also possible. Story 60. Once when I was in middle school, my friend and I were goofing around on an online chat platform. It was already a bad idea for middle schoolers, but my friend convinced me it would be fine. We saw a man probably in his 30s interacting with a girl who looked around 12 or 13. I have never closed a browser so quickly. It still haunts me to this day. I never used that platform again. Story 61. While it is not as horrible as torture or serious accidents, one of the creepiest things I have seen online is the current TikTok algorithm shift toward pornography and excessive consumption on that app. It takes very little effort to find pornography on that app, so little that it can be found accidentally. Once you have found it accidentally once, you realize just how easy it is to access more. For example, you see a blue comment on a video, one word, soap. You click it, and the searches are women in bathing suits squatting on the camera. You think, wow, that is a little inappropriate for TikTok, and move on with your day. Then you check your suggested searches and see terms like goon corner, a trend where a seemingly innocent video has a small pornographic image in one of the corners. From there, you see people in the comments advertising their reposts or stickers, all of which contain either uncensored or very poorly censored pornography. It only gets worse from there. Try it yourself and see how quickly your algorithm shifts from a random word in a comment toward borderline brain-rotting levels of pornography consumption. Push a little further and you will see how it is designed to appeal to children on the app, using words like SUS to describe pornography or sexual activities. There have been documented cases of accounts advertising child sexual abuse material. I genuinely believe there should be a comprehensive video documentary on this issue. The fact that I have not seen it covered is shocking because of how easily accessible it is, how sinister it becomes, and how quickly it reaches that level. This is a very disturbing matter that someone more qualified and with an audience should investigate and present the data. Story 62. Literally last week, the first thing I saw when I opened Instagram was 2 men on a four-wheeler in Ukraine. They were on a dirt road, and about 3 seconds later you hear a slight buzzing noise, see an explosion, then half the body of the driver. Story 63. The amount of fetishization of children in art is disturbing, but it is given cutesy names to disguise what it really is. It genuinely freaks me out and makes me so uncomfortable that I have to close whatever app one I'm using and go walk my dog to try to scrub it from my mind. The worst part is that you cannot even call these kinds of people out because their very niche fan base will microanalyze every piece of internet history related to you and bring up something you said years ago about wanting to be a furry when you grew up. I might speak from experience. Might not. You never know. Story 64. Saw a video of a Japanese man who was duct taped from neck to feet, similar to a mummy. His head was inside a plexiglass container. Then, a dozen Japanese women, smiling and laughing, took turns urinating into the container until the man obviously drowned in what must have been a gallon or two of urine. I heard it was a Yakuza execution video, but I have never tried to find it again or verify that claim. Story 65. I wanted to find some graphic videos and logged onto a website I can't remember the name of. I found a toddler being sexually assaulted. I was about 15 years old, and it scared me a lot. Story 66. There was a site like Rotten.com early on in internet time. It was a site for people who self-mutilate. I was curious. I hadn't self-mutilated, but a friend had, so I was seeing what people like her do. I was naive, and the internet wasn't as gated as it is now. There was a young girl who posted her self-inflicted wounds. She would fillet her arms and take pictures of the wounds in all stages. I watched her posts for a bit, thinking, oh God, this is awful, and would comment nice things and tell her it would be okay. Then she just stopped posting. I cannot get her split-in-half forearm out of my head. I can't imagine she is still alive. Story 67. Someone sent a link on Instagram which took me to Dropbox. I thought the icons were fake for memes or jokes, but they were not. The site was filled with videos of children being abused. Not teenagers, but boys and girls aged 4 to 9 years old. It was genuinely horrifying to watch. There were hundreds of videos, all featuring different people and locations. I am not a very good person, but I hope that those criminals face justice. There was the New Zealand shooting. Cartel videos are always gruesome. Story 68. I saw a picture of a teenage girl who lost her life after she stuck her head outside of a school bus window and collided with a sign. What made it worse was that people in the comments were talking about how attractive she looked and making disturbing, inappropriate remarks about her body. She was only around 14 years old when she died. Story 69. There used to be a website where you would pick a side and there was a 50-50 chance it would be graphic content. The worst one I saw was a 15-second video of a motorcycle accident that had just happened. The rider's body had been severely damaged and spread across the road. The video started at his feet and moved up the road, showing each limb and organ until it reached his upper body. I will never forget seeing his stretched-out intestines searing on the hot road. Story 70. I do not know if this applies, but when I was around 11 or 12 years old, I would often receive messages on Facebook from random men from India asking to be my friend or even to meet up. I did not understand how frightening that was until much later. Story 71. I was about 14 or 15 and shared a bunch of my anime and manga-style drawings online, which led to a few paid commissions. Then one day, I got a message asking for fan art from a manga series called My Chan's Daily Life. I had never heard of it, so I looked it up and read the whole thing. It was a lot for a kid who had never even read adult content before that point. There was also a commission request for a drawing of a little girl in a very adult situation with a group of older men. The messenger supplied reference photos for the little girl and the men. I reported the user, and the account disappeared, but the specifics of that request still haunt me. Story 72. Don't know if this counts, but it is still gut-wrenching. Child pornography. When I was in 7th grade, I think a girl who was crushing on my friend sent him a video that started with some guy doing a wheelie on a motorbike and then switched to child pornography. I won't go into detail. That idiot then sent the video to me without telling me because he thought it was funny. I don't remember how, but the police got involved and took his phone for a week. I don't remember what happened to the girl back then, but I know that she has completely thrown her life away nowadays. I've seen a bunch of gore and despicable things, but I will never forget how disgusting it was seeing that. I genuinely felt sick to my stomach. Story 73. I had no money as a graduate student and needed socks, so I looked on an online marketplace. There was a man selling his used socks for others to buy to satisfy their sock and foot fetish. He showed pictures of his feet with and without socks and had disturbing photos with some parts blurred out of him doing housework and other chores wearing just the socks and work boots. He talked about how they smelled and how much he wore them. It was all very creepy. No, I did not buy them. My bid was below his reserve price. Story 74. It all started out of curiosity. I always had a fascination with the forbidden. I went into the dark web looking for oddities and bizarre things. I didn't expect to find something real, but I did. One day, among forums with indecipherable names and encrypted chats, someone mentioned something called Obscure World Streams, a page where they broadcast live from clandestine cameras. It was difficult to find. It did not appear in any Onion search engine. You needed a key, and I got it on a Russian channel. When I entered, the website was rudimentary, just a list of cameras and their approximate locations. Some were duds. Security cameras in empty houses, a forest at night, a parking lot. But there was one that caught my attention. I clicked on it. Took a while to load, as if the website was fighting to prevent me from entering. When it finally did, I wished I had never done it. It was a hotel room, gray, no windows, just a bed, a chair, and a camera pointing from the corner. But there was something else. A person, or what was left of her. It was a woman tied to the chair, a deformed face, old wounds. She had been there for days, barely moving. I thought it was a setup until I saw her look at the camera. The chat was disabled, but there was a counter above, a timer. It said, next intervention at 0:12, and I don't remember the following numbers. I didn't know what intervention meant, but I figured it out. When it reached 0, someone entered the room, wearing a surgical mask without saying a word. He had a metal box with tools. Some were doctors, others were not. I'm not going to detail what I saw. I'll just say this. It was a live show, and viewers paid in Bitcoin to choose what they did to her. It was basically horrible. Story 75. Finding a live stream of an empty room, and then the lights flicker and something moves across the screen with no one there. Story 76. Worst was the audio of the toolbox killers raping and killing their female victim. She was just a child, about 15 years old. She tried to cooperate somewhat so they would let her live, but of course they did not. They ripped the patch of skin connecting her anus to her vaginal opening with pliers. The audio captures her tormented scream as that happened. That is by far the absolute worst thing I have found online. Do not search for it. Story 77. A video shows a woman in what I believe to be an Asian country, stomping on a bunch of newborn kittens in high heels. I wouldn't say it was creepy, just highly disturbing. I never intended to watch it either. An old acquaintance of my brother showed it to me many years ago, and the screams of the kittens dying in agony have never left me. I must have been around 14 or 15 when I saw it, and I am now 33. I love cats as much as I love dogs, but that one video will always haunt me whenever I see or interact with a cat. I've never said this to anyone and don't think I ever will. Apologies, this is not quite creepy as you asked for, but still deeply upsetting if you have any sense of moral compass. Story 78. Some old snuff film where a man was kicked in the head repeatedly. He was face down on the sidewalk against the wall, I think. He gets up, and they show his eye squirting blood. Not a good core memory. Story 79. Bag Vegetable 4090 is by far the ugliest human I have ever laid eyes on. He is so obese and disgusting that it haunts me to this day. Story 80. I was deep diving through some random old forums one night. It was a total rabbit hole. I clicked on a thread that looked like it hadn't been touched since 2007, but it was strangely active with new comments every minute. Every username was just a string of random numbers, and they were all replying to each other with cryptic messages like, "The window is open now," or "He's watching." It felt like I had stumbled into a digital ghost town that was secretly alive. I left quickly. Story 81. There is a video of two young people filmed in a bathroom playing with a gun. One accidentally kills the other, and then the other person reacts in panic and commits suicide. I believe they were related. Story 82. It was a video of an inflatable love doll just lying on a bed, which was odd enough on its own, but then it started moving. It was a person dressed up in an inflatable love doll costume. That was at least 15 years ago, and it is still the weirdest thing I have ever seen on the internet. Story 83. Saw a video of a man getting his chest stabbed and ripped open alive with a machete, and then his attacker used the same blade to cut off a part of the victim's heart or liver and literally ate it. This happened just last year. People claimed it was footage from the Myanmar Civil War, but I never found any article or further evidence. I cannot even find that clip again now. For the record, I would never want to watch that again. Story 84. My daughter found a website long ago called Cannibals Cafe, and it is what you would expect, judging by the name. Story 85. I saw a very short video of a mother, father, and little boy who had just gotten out of a car when a tree suddenly fell on the boy with the force of a freight train. It was obvious that it killed the boy and almost completely destroyed him. I remember not understanding how a tree could fall with that much force so suddenly. Then I saw someone say it was a tree felling job gone wrong. Has anyone else seen this? I do not know why, but this one has always stuck with me. Story 86. Basically, I saw a man saw his penis lengthwise, curled inward exactly like the top of a crab. I also saw a man use a drill and drill down his urethra. I do not talk to that friend much anymore. Story 87. Watched one of many videos of No Mercy, New Mexico, where a father had his head cut off by cartel in front of his son. Story 88. It was not while surfing the web, but rather in a WhatsApp group. A transgender woman having sex with a rotting horse head. Photos of one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims. A gay couple having sex, and one of them pulls a knife out of his anus and murders the other. I found the last two on Twitter. I hope this is not the most disturbing part of the post. Story 89. That website caused me significant distress when it was active. I do not recall how I arrived there, but I found myself on that site. Story 90. I was on Discord when a random kid, probably around 13 to 14 years old, started streaming a picture of child pornography. It was the grossest thing I have seen in a while. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.